Locked on Vikings, locked on Steelers in Ireland. First ever game there. Let's break it down here on Crossover Thursday on the Locked On Vikings and Steelers podcasts.
You are Locked On Steelers, your daily Pittsburgh Steelers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Steelers fans, Vikings fans, to another Crossover Thursday here on the Locked On Podcast Network. My name is Luke Braun. I do Locked On Vikings. Introduce myself to Steelers fans, and for Vikings fans, I'm here with Christopher Carter, who covers the Steelers for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, as well as Locked On Steelers. Chris, you're already over there across the pond. I will be joining you later this week. But this is the first ever game in Ireland, and the Vikings have played the Steelers abroad before. The Vikings won that game. It was back in 2013. I think it was the first time the Vikings ever went abroad. The Vikings have not yet lost in an international game.
That's kind of crazy.
So it's crazy because they've gone quite a bit. I think they're like 4-0, 5-0. So the storylines heading into this one, I mean, a lot of it is just about being in Ireland and the cool experience of that. But the actual game, as people sitting at home will see it, what is the vibe around Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers right now? The Vikings and Vikings fans had quite a bit of talk about Aaron Rodgers maybe signing with the Vikings. It never seemed like it was all that real because it seemed like he had shaken hands with the Steelers way earlier in the offseason, and basically that was over. How do you feel about it?
So far, I think Aaron Rodgers has delivered in ways that people can appreciate, but there's still that never-ending wonder of like, hey, when is it going to completely shut down for him? He's 41 years old. When is he just going to turn into this old, decrepit man that can't throw anymore, can't protect himself, and he's behind a young offensive line that's still figuring a lot of things out. Last week was the first week that they didn't allow him to get sacked, but he still took some hits. And so there's that constant question of, you know, can he stay alive all season in the Steelers offense? But there's not a question of his efficiency. Right now, the Steelers have the second best red zone offense in the NFL, and it's entirely because of Aaron Rodgers. He has completed 6 of 8 passes in the red zone. All 6 completions have been touchdowns, and the one that was an interception was tipped by a Steelers player that would have been a touchdown, but he tipped it accidentally going for it when his teammate had it, and it ended up being intercepted by the Seahawks. But Aaron Rodgers has brought efficiency. I think that he has not, like, all the talk. And listen, as a person who, you know, watched him from afar, you know, and you watched him because he was in your division for
we've seen plenty of Aaron Rodgers games.
There was a concern that he was going to bring this sort of I'm running the show type of attitude. This is my type. This is my locker room. But it hasn't been that. He's been contributing. He's been he's often said, like, this is not my offense. I'm here to work. But he does direct guys. Like, when guys don't do what they're supposed to do, he is hard on them. But he seems to be like one of the guys. And he's not starting drama. There's no like throwing people under the bus comments. And even when there's like a hard question that's asked about something that someone did wrong, he's like, hey, that's my guy, and we're gonna get this. And so far, I'd say the Aaron Rodgers experiment in Pittsburgh has been positive and interesting. But I think the thing that everyone's worried about is, like, as you continue to face teams that can bring heat, and the Patriots last week, you know, had the most sacks going into week 2. The Steelers were able to keep them from sacking Aaron Rodgers. But how long can they go up against that when you're facing a Brian Flores defense that's also ready to send heat and get after the quarterback?
Yeah, so this is the angle that's fascinating to me. Last time the Vikings played Aaron Rodgers, he was with the Jets. It was also abroad. It was in London. They picked him off 3 times, which is like the 4th or 5th ever time that Aaron Rodgers has thrown 3 interceptions. It's just not something that happens to him. So what are the key differences, like, between the Jets' Aaron Rodgers offense and the Steelers' Aaron Rodgers offense? Is it that the Steelers have sort of gotten Aaron Rodgers to buy into something that's not necessarily the same, whereas the Jets were just trying to recreate what Green Bay had all the time? Or is there something more going on about Rodgers' play? Is there something schematically? What has been the difference that has gotten what I haven't caught all the Steelers games, but it seems like it's been a lot more success than the Jets had?
It's a different look because with the Jets, like you said, they tried to recreate the Green Bay offense, and that's just really hard to do at his age. But with the Steelers, they acknowledge, like, they have a different skill set of guys. Like, they don't have a run of wide receivers that are just going to win their one-on-ones every single down. They have tight ends, though. They have size. Like, that's why they're winning in the red zone so much.
Huh.
When they get inside the 10, you got DK Metcalf, who's big as all get out.
Yeah.
You got Pat Freiermuth. You got 3 tight ends that are threats in the red zone. Pat Freiermuth, Johnny Smith, and Darnell Washington, who's like 6'7", and though he's listed at like 280, he's more like 310. And but all of them can go up and get the football. They can bully you when you're trying to guard them. And so it allows him to kind of spread things out and say, which big guy am I going to throw to here? And so I think what they're still trying to figure out is how to balance the passing offense with a run game that still isn't quite efficient yet. Like the run game, and I wrote about this for the Post-Gazette earlier in the week, but the run game on first downs, when that first down run was preceded by a pass earlier in on the play before in that drive, they averaged like 4.5 yards. But if they ran the ball on first down, either to start the drive or coming off of another run, they averaged like a third of a yard on those runs. And
wow.
I think what's happening is the Steelers want to be this strong running team. They've invested heavily in this offensive line, but there's a lot of guys like Broderick Jones is finally playing his first year at left tackle. Troy Faltanu is playing his first year at right tackle because he missed all the last season. They're still figuring out their chemistry as an offensive line. And because of that, the run game can't just bully people off the line. So they need Aaron Rodgers and the passing game to exploit some things, to hit some pop passes out wide or hit a slant or two, and then force linebackers and the interior defenders to have to hesitate a little bit. And that way the offensive line can attack and get downhill before the linebackers and the defense are starting to attack. And to me, that's the key for this offense right now, is the pass to set up the run, because the offensive line isn't quite there yet to just be able to run the ball regardless of what you're doing on defense.
So it's so fascinating. I think there's 2 really strong mismatches either way on this side of the ball with the Flores defense and the Steelers offense. If the Steelers' whole thing is size, throw the ball high, be in the red zone, catch contested catches, right?
Yeah.
The Vikings secondary is Isaiah Rodgers, who just went supernova against the Bengals,
Ridiculous.
had an unbelievable game. He's 5'10". He made a great pass breakup against T. Higgins. So you go, okay, well, he's got at least the skill set to do that, but that's a disadvantage at the very least. Byron Murphy, he's 5'11". Joshua Metellus, 5'11". One of the only guys in the secondary who's over 6 feet is Jeff Okudah, and he's Jeff Okudah. So like, if the whole thing is about size, the Vikings do not have the size. They will not. And I don't think they'll walk into the game intending to just man up one-on-one and try to, win some jump balls. But then on the other side, if the problem with the offense has been pressure, run game, stuff up front, which I guess is my next question, the Vikings have led the league in pressure generation. They have led the league in defensive EPA. I mean, obviously it's buoyed by when you get 2 defensive touchdowns in a quarter, that's going to happen. And that's probably not going to keep going. But even like success rate and like stuff that sort of takes the explosives out of it, like statistically, the Vikings defense has been extraordinarily disruptive via doing stuff up front. Jonathan Grenard is a stud. Jonathan Allen is on this team. He's doing great things. They're getting a ton of production from unsung names like Jalen Redmond. He was an Arlington Renegade a couple years ago. He is currently producing pressure at a clip toe-to-toe with Jeffrey Simmons. They're getting tons of pressure just by winning one-on-one. They're still blitzing a lot, but not like the ridiculous amount it used to be. They're blitzing like ace most in the league. So how all of this kind of works out is going to be interesting. If there's one thing I always do about Aaron Rodgers from Green Bay, it's don't blitz him. He'll get rid of the ball. He'll find a way. He will find a way to make the offense work. If he can punish the vacated space, beat the zone coverage. It's don't blitz him. Brian Flores did not listen to that advice in New York and was totally validated in doing so. So I guess a couple of things is, how will the Steelers handle pressure? And are you worried about pressure? Like, how's the O-line doing? And if you are worried, what's the solution?
I think the solution for the Steelers is have counters for the pressures. Like, try to note where they're coming from. And that's something Aaron Rodgers, he's still able to do. Like, he'll see at the line of scrimmage, hey, they're doing this, get ready. And he can call things out. But the problem is, and I even think that the Steelers are often in position to take on pressure, but they need these guys to win their one-on-ones. Like Troy Faltanu, who, was a first-round pick in last year's draft. He is just his first real action because he missed all of last season. And there's times where he's in position and he's just kind of not executing in the right spots. And so if I'm the Vikings, I'm trying to overwhelm this offensive line. I'm trying to send heat, force them to have to win a lot, and keep communicating and try to cause chaos for Aaron Rodgers so that he doesn't have time. But to your point, right now, when he's been blitzed, he has 2 touchdowns to 0 interceptions, and he's able to counter that. One thing he loves to do when you blitz is he loves to say, okay, if you blitzed, did you cover Jalen Warren out of the backfield? Because if you didn't, I'm hitting him and he's getting 8-10 yards because he has speed. Him and Kenneth Gainwell are 2 guys that these Vikings linebackers are going to need to have close tabs on because Aaron Rodgers loves to just be like, oh, you're blitzing? Yes, you're probably not getting that guy.
Hit the hot.
Throw it over.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Flip it to the running back.
He's more than happy for the hot to be a running back instead of a receiver 10 or 15 yards downfield. And I think it's all part of the Arthur Smith offense that they're feeling out still, because the Steelers will run a lot of 12 personnel. They'll bring out a lot of tight end packages, but they'll do so in a way that they're going to see, do you try to get heavy with us? Do you try to bring out more linebackers? Because if you do, then we spread you out and then we try to catch you in the pass game. But if you try to get lighter, that's when they want to say, okay, we'll still spread you out, but now we'll try to run against you and try to see if we can just get the right mismatch where Jalen Warren or Kenneth Gainwell hits a seam because you have, a slot corner out there trying to take on Darnell Washington, who's like 6'7".
Yeah, and don't get us twisted. The Vikings are not the only team with a D-line worth talking about. There's some marquee matchups on the other side of the ball. We will get into that next here on the Crossover Thursday episode on the Locked On Podcast Network. This episode of Locked On Vikings and Locked On Steelers is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. The NFL season is here, and they've got a can't-miss offer to get you into the action. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Right now, as of this recording, at least on FanDuel, the Vikings are favored in this game by 2.5 points over the Steelers. If you think that that's wrong, one way or another, you think the Vikings are underrated, the Steelers are underrated, you can put $5 on it, or you can find something else. Go put $5 on the Bills money line. They're minus 1,800, but you, if that's your first bet, will get $300 in bonus bets to use on the app if it wins. FanDuel is quick, easy. It's the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays, especially on weeks where your team plays an island game and you get to throw on Red Zone and maybe have a little extra something to watch for in a bunch of games that you otherwise wouldn't really have a stake in. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. This episode is also brought to you by Wayfair. When you think game day, you might not think Wayfair, but you should, because Wayfair is the best kept secret for incredible and affordable game day finds to set up your space. I'll be honest, I am moving, right? We're in the middle. We just purchased a condo, and this place is probably a quarter furnished by Wayfair. We have been all over that website. We have been ordering all kinds of things, furniture, dressers, a little kitchenette, and you can even get somebody to come out and assemble it for you if you want to select that option. There's all kinds of great options on Wayfair. I was super excited to see that they were on our list this week. They have everything you need to get your space ready for the season. You don't have to be in the middle of a move for Wayfair to be awesome for you. Whether you're setting up your outdoor space for tailgating or just cheering from your living room, delivery is fast, hassle-free. It's a total lifesaver when you're stressed out trying to get a whole space together or juggle a whole bunch of different contractors. This has been a nutso week for us, and Wayfair has been so clutch. Wayfair is your trusted destination for all things game day. From coolers and grills to recliners and slow cookers, shop, save, and score today at wayfair.com. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Moving on here with this Crossover Thursday episode of Locked On Vikings and Locked On Steelers. Chris, there is a marquee matchup that I've been circling here since the schedule came out. The hope for the Vikings was that Christian Darrisaw would be back by this time. He returned in the Bengals game, so he's back to playing. Still got a knee brace, but he's back. They also got Brian O'Neill on the other side. So my question to you, these are two, Brian O'Neill Pro Bowler, Christian Darrisaw Pro Bowler. My question to you, with TJ Watt, for one, Has he been as productive as you hoped? And what's the plan for getting him past these two really good tackles?
So I think a lot of Steelers fans would hope he would be more productive. He did just have 2 sacks and a forced fumble last week, and was a big part of their.
Seems fine.
Yeah, right, exactly. But that's not enough because he asked for more money this year, and so that he needs to have 12 sacks in 3 games instead of just 2. But I think what's happened is a lot of teams, and this was going into last year. At the end of last season, T.J. Watt, I think, finished the year with 4 straight games with no sacks. But it was because teams were either double or triple teaming him, and while also getting the ball out quickly. And it was the scheme to beat the Steelers was don't let 90 beat us. Don't let that guy take over the game, and we have a shot to win. And then the start of the season, you had a similar approach from both the Jets and the Seahawks. And Watt was even getting pressure, but they were just everything was dedicated to stopping him. In fact, Jack Sawyer, the 4th round rookie out of Ohio State, he gets his first career sack against the Seahawks because he rushed on the same side as T.J. Watt. And you can see on the replay a tackle, a tight end, and a fullback all go with T.J. Watt. And Sawyer's just like walking to the quarterback like, okay. And that's kind of just like, I'll just take a sack for free. And so T.J. Watt wasn't being, quote unquote, productive on the stat sheet, but he was absolutely impacting games. And then last week, I think you saw the Steelers pass rush come alive, and you started to see this new coverage scheme that they've been putting together start to pair well with their pass rushes. This is a different defense this year for the Steelers. And I talked about that on the Wednesday episode with Nick Farabaugh on Locked On Steelers. But this defense is blitzing so much more from so many different angles. And that's not something that they did the last few years because they were trusting them to just win with 4-man fronts and have aggressive coverage schemes behind them. This year, they're mixing more aggressive stunts, twists, and blitzes from different guys. They're letting Patrick Queen, Peyton Wilson, Cole Holcomb go after the quarterback a lot more. And that's starting to mesh much better with the coverage than it did in the first 2 weeks. And I think that's why they were able to get 5 sacks last week on the Patriots. So with T.J. Watt, I think the key is they're still going to let him try to get him as one-on-ones, but they're trying to make it so that even if you do account for him, you still have to account for Cam Hayward. Who has forced multiple turnovers last week. You still have to account for Nick Herbig, who he got a sack and a forced fumble last week. And you still have to account for the blitz that could come. And also rookie Derek Harmon, who got his first NFL action last week and got his first career sack. They're trying to overload you the same in a similar way the Vikings would, but they're trying to send heat so that it's not easy to just tee off on T.J. Watt the way it kind of became last year for teams. They said, you know what? He loves to line up over the right tackle. Just put 2 to 3 guys on him, and then let's try to beat everyone else that way. And so that's what the Steelers are going to try to counter. But again, it's that aggression on defense that they're trying to do to negate teams just trying to double and triple team Watt and then just try to settle down with everyone else.
So my response to this is I think the Vikings are maybe going to take this more one-on-one than you think.
Ooh, that'll be fun.
It'd be fun. So this is the first week that they're going to ostensibly have, they're not going to have Donovan Jackson, so never mind. They're not going to have their full offensive line complement, so they'll probably help the guard a little bit. But with Darisaw, if you want to put TJ Watt on Darisaw, I bet the Vikings will maybe chip him, but that's it. Like, chip him every once in a while, but largely will let that be a one-on-one. They trust Darisaw with their lives. On the other side, maybe they'll give it a little more help, try to slide the protection toward him or something.
TJ Watt will play over the right tackle more often than he plays over the left. That's just
okay. So we maybe won't. That sucks. I want to see the matchup. I want to see Darisaw versus Watt. We saw Darisaw take Trey Hendrickson out. I mean, totally stonewall him in that blowout win. And everything went wrong for the Bengals there. So I'm not going to hold that. I actually just did a whole thing at my Patreon page about that matchup and how Trey Hendrickson didn't play bad. Like, he threw everything at Darisaw. He just had all the answers. But I want to see that matchup again. But Brian O'Neill certainly, he's made Pro Bowls. Like, that is a good tackle.
Pittman, by the way.
Pittman, that's true. So I'm fascinated at that. But otherwise, the Vikings really like Will Fries. They're getting Ryan Kelly back from his concussion. They'll have probably Blake Brandel at left guard, he'll be the backup. He was the starter last year. So they have a line that they really trust. And I think that the ability to win those one-on-one matchups, I think they're going to be willing to send that and say, all right, yeah, do it. Maybe keep a tight end for protection every once in a while. But what they don't want to do is what they did the first 2 weeks without Darisaw, which was TJ Hawkinson was basically a blocker. and suddenly you don't have one of your favorite weapons. But it's the Vikings. Their favorite weapon is Justin Jefferson. I have to ask this in every crossover. What's the plan? What is the plan for stopping Justin Jefferson? The Vikings also get Jordan Addison back, big speed guy, take the top off. Jalen Naylor's also a speed guy.
Another pitch guy.
Yeah, there you go. I always forget about that because he's listed as USC, but that was yeah. So, and he's been phenomenal, by the way. I remember asking you about him when we drafted him.
That guy.
Yeah, and you were like, that dude's going to be on SportsCenter top 10. Like, sure enough, it was like week 7 his rookie year. He was dunking on the future NFC champion 49ers. But so they have their full complement now of pass catchers: Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson, and they're going to be able to use Hawkinson in the pass game more than just as a blocker, and Naylor, who has been phenomenal this season as a wide receiver 3 and another like take the top off guy. So you got 2 fast guys, a good tight end, and Justin Jefferson. What's the plan?
So it's going to be interesting because it's going to depend on who the Steelers have available to them, because they've also had some injury issues. Joey Porter Jr. has missed all but like the first half of the first game of the season with a hamstring injury. Deshaun Elliott, same thing, starting strong safety. And both of those guys were huge parts of what they wanted to do in this secondary as far as the flexibility. Because originally the plan that we saw was when they added Jalen Ramsey at cornerback, they wanted Jalen Ramsey to either A, be in the slot, B, back off into a free safety role, or C, take away the number 1 wide receiver. And we talked with him and Joey Porter Jr. a lot in this offseason, and there was a lot of talk about how Joey Porter wants to be the guy that takes on number 1 wide receiver. Jalen Ramsey said, nah, that's my job. And so there's a difference there. So they're gonna, but here's the thing: Jordan Addison ain't no slouch of a number 2, like you were just talking about. He's a bad man, and they have a lot of respect for him. So I'll be intrigued to see how often do they move Jalen Ramsey around to not be on one of those guys? Because, like, if you look at at the detailed snap counts, when you look at where he lines up, he'll be left outside cornerback, right outside. Oh yeah, cornerback.
They move everybody around a ton. Yeah,
and he'll do that so much. And when he does that, Darius Slay, who is still decent, like he's not all pro Darius Slay that he was some years ago, but he's still decent. Putting him on the outside, it can work because he'll be able to play well structured into the defense, but he doesn't have the speed to keep up with fast guys anymore. And so you got to kind of give him some safety protection if you're having him play quarters coverage almost, or you're saying, hey, just keep the play in front of you. So that's going to be the challenge for this secondary is, hey, who's healthy? If Porter's back, I will be very intrigued to see, do they just say Ramsey, follow Jefferson, or do they let him try to be that chess piece and they trust that their cornerbacks will do enough to limit Jefferson and Addison in this offense? Because I also imagine part of this might be they want to test Carson Wentz, right? Like Carson Wentz is a guy who, if this is JJ McCarthy, he's also a young guy, but Carson Wentz is a veteran. They faced him multiple times in the past. They want to say, hey, we respect these receivers, but we want to put pressure on you to get the ball to them in the spaces that they're in their best position. So I think that the Steelers have multiple ways to go about this. I think if Porter's healthy, they still let Ramsey kind of be the number 1 guy. If Porter's not healthy, I fully expect Ramsey to just follow Jefferson or Addison, and then whoever that they don't have him follow, you'll see a bracket on the other guy, whether that's Addison who gets the bracket from like Slay and let's say like Jabril Peppers, or or vice versa. Jefferson gets that bracket while Ramsey tries to take away Addison.
There's a lot of mouths to feed. An interesting detail. I know this was a long time ago, and if Slay's not the same guy, but one of the worst L's Jefferson took in his career came in 2022 against Darius Slay in Philadelphia. Slay really figured him out, and that was his 3rd season. And then the next year there was like a turnover disaster, and Slay actually got, I think, a pick in that one too. So Darius Slay has had some success against Justin Jefferson. I wonder if they're willing to draw on that. So that's all fascinating. What that sounds like to me is send everybody deep and take your chances, but that puts so much pressure on the O-line. So we got to predict how all this is going to work out. Plus, there's an elephant in the room that we haven't addressed at all, which is that Carson Wentz is starting for the Vikings. So I'm sure your Steelers fans want to hear about that too. That'll be next on the Locked On Crossover. This crossover episode is brought to you by Game Time, the best place to find last-minute tickets. If you are like me and Chris, you're trying to get to this game, go to Dublin, but you haven't figured out your tickets yet, it's not a worry at all because Game Time has your back. There is nothing like being at these games, being surrounded by the fans, high-fiving people at touchdowns, living the ups and downs. You got to get into it. That is why I use the Game Time app for these tickets. You can always find crazy deals on Game Time. They have their flash sales, zone deals, where you just say, hey, get me whatever you can get in this section. Game Time picks the seats and you save big. And the app makes it so simple to do. It's faster, cheaper, and way less stressful than dealing with all of the other crazy ticket companies that will try to find ways to like hide fees. That is what Game Time will never do. What you see is what you get. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Moving on here with this crossover Thursday episode of Locked On Vikings and Locked On Steelers. Chris, so here's the real weakness on the offense. There's all this great stuff. We love the O-line. We love the pass catchers. There's a lot of talent on this offense. The Vikings fans are all really excited about. The quarterback situation has not been fun. JJ McCarthy mostly struggled in 2 games. He's got a high ankle sprain now. Carson Wentz is in. He plays against Cincinnati like a backup. He misses some, leaves some meat on the bone, and it kind of doesn't matter because he had 2 defensive touchdowns and a run game explosion. The Vikings are going to have to do that again, I think. If this comes down to, all right, Carson Wentz, you're going to have to throw for 350, I don't see this working out for the Vikings. But how do the Steelers feel about going up against a backup quarterback that's largely just going to try to do a lot of really simple things, the stuff he can handle, and then like hope that the playmakers make plays?
I think that they are still preparing for this as if this is a veteran NFL quarterback that they need to respect. This isn't going to be a thing where like, oh, if we can just get him in bad situations, he'll hand the game to us. Because frankly, the Steelers defense has not played at the standard that they want to. Even though last week they got 5 sacks and 5 forced turnovers with a turnover on downs, and they limited the Patriots to just 14 points. They were bad on 3rd and longs. They were allowing the Patriots to convert a lot, even when they run it. They won in the early downs against the run. And I think that's the thing that they're trying to figure out right now, because if you look at how they played the Patriots running backs, they pretty much limited them. They were able to limit those guys. They forced a lot of fumbles, and that was a first because in the Jets and Seahawks games, they were getting gashed by the running backs in those games. But still, they were having plays where guys were just hitting the right seams, the right spots, and Drake May was able to find the right guys. Justin Fields did that a few times in week 1. You saw Sam Darnold hit him a few times in week 2. And that's where, if I'm the Steelers, I'm not looking at Carson Wentz and in my chops. I'm looking at Carson Wentz and saying, we got to be on our P's and Q's, because we cannot let this guy get into a comfort zone where he's able to hit, the soft spot of a cover 2, find the seam in a cover 3, because, he'll be able to find those things. And part of it's been because, again, I think that what the Steelers are doing is with all these new blitzes that they're designing up front, sometimes what's happening is they'll have the right coverage behind it, but one player will do something in that coverage that he used to do on his own all the time that kind of compromises his position. For example, there's times where Jalen Ramsey will want to play trail technique in a situation where he just needs to man a guy up, take away inside leverage, and that'll help the pressure. But when he plays trail technique, if a guy just beats him by a step, traditionally, Jalen Ramsey, sometimes when he plays that trail technique, that's how he gets his interceptions. But if a guy beats him by a step, then all of a sudden that's an easy pass for the quarterback. And now the pressure that the Steelers were sending, that they were basing this entire play on, is basically negated because Jalen Ramsey didn't hold on to that spot. And then there's other times where the Steelers try to disguise a lot. Like last week, if you look at the second touchdown the Patriots scored, they were trying to disguise zone by showing man. And Peyton Wilson forgot that they were supposed to be actually in zone. And so he doesn't drop back into his spot. Hunter Henry, the tight end runs into the end zone. It's a wide open touchdown. Those are the things that Carson Wentz needs to be able to take advantage of. And if the Steelers are on their P's and Q's, he'll have the chance to. But again, this defense has not really been together much of this season. You've been missing half the secondary for pretty much the whole start to the season. They just got back Derek Harmon, who was supposed to be a big part of what they wanted to do up front. And they're still missing Alex Highsmith, who's another big part of what they want to do up front. This is going to be interesting to see how do the Vikings make it easier on Carson Wentz, because if I'm the Vikings, I test this Steelers run defense because they may have been able to stop running backs last week, but in those first 2 weeks, you saw Kenneth Walker just take over the game for the Seahawks. You saw Breece Hall really get after it with the Jets. I'd be saying, hey, Jordan Mason, you just had a great week 3 against the Bengals. Let's try that again a little bit more and get him going, and then that way things get easier on Carson Wentz.
I think that's really the true key to this game is either team trying to make stuff hard on the other quarterback. If the Steelers can make Carson Wentz really have to like pull up the whole team by his own bootstraps, like if they can make Carson Wentz have to be the driver of success, then I think that's where you start to get some of the meltdown stuff that Carson Wentz did in Indy or Washington or even in his last bit in Philadelphia. If Carson Wentz can just sort of peacefully go through the reads and just sort of dump things off to the running back and live to fight another day, and if you allow Carson Wentz to move the ball playing conservatively, that probably means that things aren't going well for the Steelers, right?
Right.
And like that can have a lot to do with game script too, right? Like if the Vikings fumble on the opening drive, Steelers score, if it's 14-0 because of a turnover right away, and then suddenly you're like it can, that in and of itself can make it feel like Carson Wentz has to suddenly go play hero ball, and that's when he's going to do all his stupid stuff. Right. They managed to avoid that last time. They sprung out to a big lead, and Carson Wentz could just sort of coast, and you get to win 48-10. But like on the flip side too, if the Vikings can make stuff hard on Aaron Rodgers, they can sort of take the teeth out of what he wants to do. If they can make that hard, then you're not going to be able to throw these big, long developing routes, big post routes or whatever. You don't get to throw that kind of. If you can make him dump off to the running back, Brian Flores defenses love that. They love to dump off to the quarterback, to the running back, rally on the check down. That is what Brian Flores wants. So if you can turn Aaron Rodgers into a check down machine, then you can maybe stymie this, and it'll come down to the various run games. So I don't know what you usually do for predictions with these crossover episodes, but what I have on my show is a bold prediction segment every Friday. I do I bring in, like, give me your absolute spiciest, most irresponsible prediction. I'll put it in the thing. If you're right, I'll donate $20 to a Pittsburgh area charity of your choice.
Oh, wow. Now you got pressure on me, because now I'm trying to help out people in need. All right. Let's see. I'll go there. How about this? We'll go. The Steelers secondary gets 2 interceptions in this game.
Boulder.
Oh,
Boulder.
Okay.
Aaron Freeman on the Falcons said J.J. McCarthy would throw 3 picks. He was almost right. You got to go bolder than 2 interceptions.
Bolder than 2 picks? All right.
Yeah.
Scratch that. Offense. Okay, let me switch to offense.
Carson Wentz 2 picks, like that. That's an over. I think that might be minus money on FanDuel.
All right. Darnell Washington, 2 touchdown receptions.
That's what I'm talking about.
Third string tight end, baby.
Yes, the Vikings do have a bit of a sordid history with eligible tackles. So they did get iced once by Penei Sewell on a diving catch.
Oh my gosh! Listen,
did you see that kid?
I know the game you're talking about. I didn't see it live, but I saw the highlights and I was like, my goodness. But like
3rd and 10, and you just got iced out by Penei Sewell, man. Like, that was disgusting.
But I'm telling you, Darnell Washington, like, this isn't a gimmick. They go back and watch the opening drive touchdown that the Steelers had last week. It's 3rd and some change. And so they just line up. They spread the guys out, and they line up Darnell Washington against the guy. And like, I'm watching, and I'm like, oh, this is going to Darnell Washington, and it's just jump, and the cornerback just has to like hang on to him, because he can't, if he throws the ball high, he can't jump with this guy. He's 6'7", and he can't like fight through his hands, because he's just Aaron Rodgers putting the ball up too high. So that's why I'll go bold prediction. If the Steelers get in the red zone, they'll try some other things. They'll try some lateral, like fake jet sweep to Jonnu Smith and then pitch to Kenneth Gainwell. They'll try some Pat Freiermuth looks, or some DK Metcalf, because he's also a beast in the red zone. But when push comes to shove, they'll just be like, can we get one-on-one with Darnell? One of those. And as Arthur Smith put it, he said it's like throwing the ball to Shaq in the post. So give me Darnell Washington 2 touchdowns as my bold prediction.
Love it. There's a lot of throw it up to Shaq in the post. I really think that's going to be the key to this is, big DK versus 5'10" corner, or maybe 2 5'10" secondary members who gets the ball. If you want to hear the rest of the bold predictions, you can check out Locked On Vikings later in the week. Of course, Vikings fans, go check out Christopher. He is podcasting from good old Ireland all week long. We will all see you on our respective shows later. Please check the other one out. Always got to say that. Always love to listen to you guys when the Vikings are playing this week. I love the Oppo research. We will see you all next week on this Crossover Thursday episode brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network.